In this video, I'm going to describe how to use Affinity Photo's Procedural Texture tool to create patterns that look sort of like marble, something like this. So I have that one. Here's another one, white with blue veins. I had one with gold veins. I made one with dark green, sort of a dark red with dark green. Here's another dark one with white veins. Here's some green marble with green veins. This is rose marble with blue veins. Here's a green with gold, sort of a teal and gold. And then a dark marble with dark brown veins. A dark red with pink. And a sort of a default thing, just white marble with sort of gray veins, and then a brown one with sort of a tan vein structure. Okay, so and I can do that all. I do those all as presets, and so I just changed these different patterns, and I was able to get all of these different colors of marble. So I'm going to demonstrate how I went about changing the default marble program to this one where I have those patterns. So if I look at, I'm going to bring this in on Notepad just to show what it looks like. So you can see it a little better here. So the default marble pattern, if you are using Windows, there is a default marble pattern built into it as one of the built-in presets called marble. And it looks sort of like that. When I first saw it, I didn't like it very much, but after I started messing around with it, I realized, well, it does have some potential here. So this is the default structure. So if I look at it, there's a vector variable for the Rx and the Ry, so that's good. Then it uses some perlin noise. It's multiplying it by this, so that must be giving it, this vector 3 is giving it the color. So each of these, this is red, green, and blue color, and each of those can range from 0 to 1. Then it has another perlin noise function over here, and then it's doing something called smoothness. So this part creates the vein in the marble, and then this part creates the colored marble background. All right, but if I look at the preset, there's no controls down here. So it'd be nice to have some controls. I'd like to be able to control the color of both the background marble and the veins in the marble. Okay, so the first thing I did was I saw this was at 150, and I'd rather have that set to be the width of the document. So that way it works out with scaling a little better. And then I think the first thing I'm going to do is to add a scaling factor for this since it doesn't have one. So if I multiply this by, I'll call that AM for amplitude of the marble, and then I'll scale this one. Instead of dividing by 2, I'll just give it its own factor. I'll call that AV for amplitude of the vein. All right, so now I'm going to add an AM for the marble and an AV for the vein, and bring those up a little bit, and I can see that I can scale those now independently from each other. All right, so that's the first part. The next thing I'm going to do is I'd like to have be able to control the color of the background so I can change to whatever color I want. So I'm going to put in a color vector for that. and I'm going to copy it from my other, from my notepad document, but it's VC1 is a vector 3, R1, G1, B1. Okay, so I'm going to add down here 3 controls for that, and I'm going to call it R1, first one R1, the second one G1, and the third one B1 for red, green, and blue. Okay, and now up here I can see I'm multiplying by this vector here. So I'm going to take that out. I don't need that, and I'm actually going to move, don't need those parentheses in there, and I'm going to move the VC1 up to the front and multiply it by the perlin noise. Okay, so now since they're all set to 1, it goes from black up to white. And if I want a different color, I can move these sliders and it will give me a mix of the RG and B colors to get just the color I wanted here. Okay, so I like that. The next thing I'm going to do is add another color, and I'm going to call this one VC2, and I'm going to use that to color the vein in the marble. So I'm going to copy that from my other document, since I already have it set up over there, and paste it in over here. So VC2 equals vector R2G2B2. So I'm going to add 3 more sliders for that, and I'm going to call them R2, G2, and B2. And what I want to do is multiply the smooth step by my VC2 vector, like that. So now I should be able to change the color of these independent, and so I can put whatever color I want for those. So if I set this to a, just set that like that. I'm going to bring these all the way up, and if I bring these down, I can't really get a dark. What I'd like to have is, for a basic marble, I'd like to have a white vein with dark, or a white background with dark veins in it, and I can't really do that with this pattern. What I could do is make this negative, so I'm subtracting off the veins, and then I can have dark veins on a white background. And if I bring these all the way up now, there. So that looks a little bit closer to what I want to do. But rather than just make this a negative, I think what I'm going to do instead is put another factor in here, and that's going to go from -1 to +1. So I can control the intensity of the veins, whether they're dark or light, and how bright they are, or how much intensity they have. So I'm going to put in this factor. It's going to range from -1 to 1, and I'll call that I1. And I'm going to multiply my up here by I1. And so I can bring in white veins, or I can bring in dark veins, like that. So I'm multiplying this factor that applies to veins by 1. And since this has 0.5 on there, since I already have that other factor, I don't really need that 0.5. That's not doing anything for me. And also I don't need these parentheses are redundant. I don't need the extra parentheses. So now I can make it really white and really dark. And I'll just leave that. Now this marble has black areas, and I'd like to have these maybe be a different color, so I could have this one be white, maybe this be nearly a little off-white, something like that. So I'm going to add a third color. I'll call it VC3. So I'm going to add a third color vector. I'm going to put that in right up here. And then I'm going to add 3 more color sliders for that one. I want to look at a couple other things. I noticed there's a couple of factors in here. It'd be nice to be able to control those as well. So I'm going to add in another factor for the octaves. I'm going to add an octave 1 for this one and an octave 2 for this one over here. Better yet, I will call this one, I'll call this one octave M, O-M, and this one octave V for the vein. So then I can remember what they're for. O-V. So now I'm going to add, and those are going to be, they'll go from 1 to 6 really, so I'm going to add, I'll use real numbers for those, octave for the marble, and octave for the vein. Like that. So this one, as you increase that, you get more of the noise, and it goes up to about 6 before it stops. There's another feature in here, and so I might as well, since we're controlling everything, this one is set to 0.55, which is fine, but why not add a slider to it? It goes from 0 to 1, so I'm going to create a 0 to 1 slider. I sort of think of it as smoothness, so I'm going to do SM for that one, and another 0 to 1, 0 to 1 slider, and I'll call that SV. Smoothness for the marble, smoothness for the vein. Just sort of stick with the same convention for those. And this is going to be SM, and this one over here is going to be SV. Okay, so I'm going to bring these down like that. So if I bring this way up, you'll see it gets real grainy, but if I bring this down about there, that looks good. And then as I increase this, it gets more noisy. In fact, if I increase this a little bit, yeah, you can control how the veins look. All right, okay, now I'm going to go back and look at this last color, and what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take this function right here, the perlin noise, my perlin noise function, like that. I'm going to copy that and paste it paste it right here. And I'm going to add that. And I'm just going to leave these factors the same for that one, but I'm going to take 1 minus that function. So that one will be sort of the opposite of this one. There would be the mirror image of this one in a way. So this one goes from 0 to 1. This is going to go from 1 to 0. And I'm going to multiply that by my color, which is, I'm going to make this VC2 actually, and I'm going to make this one VC3. Like that. I think that'll work out a little better to do it that way. Okay. So now if I look at my R1, G1, and B1, those are controlling the color of the background marble, and I'm fading between those two different colors. And so I can get a nice sort of marble look there, and then I'm going to go down here and change this and I can add more intensity to that. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Add a little bit more, I think down, add a little more graininess to that, and then I can change this. So now I have a fairly good marble. I can, yeah, about like that. Like that. And I can change the zoom for both the veins and the marbling background independently. So I'm just looking at it to see if there's, oh yeah. So the other thing, right now these I always just add together. But what I'd like to do is I have this inverter for my veins where I can change it whether it adds or subtracts. I want to do the same thing with this perlin noise, sort of the mirror image of the noise here. I'm going to add an inverter there, just a number. I'll call it just I2. Actually, I should call that IM, and I should call this one IV so I can remember what they are. So I'll make this one IV. So that's sort of changes the inversion of the, of the vein, and then I'll add another one that goes from -1 to 1 for IM, and that will control the see if I must not have got that in there. IV. There. And that'll control whether that's inverted. So generally, I'll just leave this down here. I'm going to put this one up here. I'm going to bring, let's see, this I want it to be, I think, 6, but I want it to be a little smoother. So I'm going to bring that down like that. And then I can have it, yeah, so the inverter for the marble, it can either be almost all the way up where they're almost completely white, or I can just touch that down a little bit and get a little bit more texture in there. And then I can change the smoothness, give it a little bit more of a marbly texture. And then this one, again, you can go all the way down like that, or gradually increase to give the veins more lines. And then the inverter for the veins, which is up here, I guess, you can bring that down to make those much darker, or I could add a lighter one on top. I'm just checking to make sure that's everything I had in there. So again, I added 3 vectors for 3 different colors. I changed this to a W. I took the perlin noise, or added parameters for each of the individual parameters in the perlin noise functions, and then I made this one 1 minus perlin noise times the second color, and then this one is the vein times the color of that. And then I have these 2 inverters in here, so sometimes I could add them, sometimes I could subtract them depending on the position of the slider. Now where subtracting comes in, so if I want to make a real dark marble, that's pretty handy to do that here. So I'm going to subtract that, but then I'm going to, what I'll probably do is, what I usually do is start with these down at a very dark color, and then just mess around with the colors till I get one that I like, but I'm actually subtracting these. And then for the vein, I could add, instead of subtracting that one, I can bring that this IV positive and add a color on top of that, like that. Okay, so then I've already got this saved as a preset, and so I don't need to save this, but I'm going to go to that preset. I called it marbling, and here it is. And so these are the, by adjusting these parameters, now I can get these different marbling effects like this. So here's the function, and I've got these variables set up at the beginning, and then I divide this onto 2 lines so I could fit it all on here. I'll leave a copy of this in the comments so that you can just grab this function and use it. Okay, let me know if you have any comments or questions, and thanks for watching.